Alrighty, thank you so much for joining me, everybody. I can see that the numbers are building up. The chat room's starting to get a few comments in. So those of you who know the score and tune in regularly, do me a favour, do the usual. Just drop me a message to say that you can certainly see the countdown, you can see the numbers going, you can hear the music, and that you can hear me. Otherwise, like I say, I'm talking to myself. So just drop us a quick message. Would really appreciate it. Always good to know the technicals are working. Alright, that's brilliant. Thank you so much, everybody, for putting in the comment there. It's always good to know that stuff's working. No matter how many times you kind of rehearse this, when there's technicalities involved, it's always left to the gods. But good to know it's all right. Listen, tonight, really looking forward to this one. You're going to learn as much as I learned tonight, because although I know Chris, we've met him once before, I know a little bit about his story, but I know just a small fraction. This one is going to be one where you just sit back, and I guarantee a few jaws are going to drop. There's quite some story, this is, I'll tell you now. Now this is how to print. The ultimate guide to consistently achieving the perfect print. At nearly 3 years in the making, How to Print is packed with content covering everything you would need to know. Hardware choices, how to correctly calibrate your display, how to check that your printer is even working correctly because the problems you may be having might not be something you're doing. Produce stunning black and white prints, colour prints that come alive on the paper. Understanding colour space, resizing images, how to sharpen your images specifically for printing, how to correctly softproof so no more wasted money on ink and paper, how to choose the right paper for the right image, printing with different software choices. If you send image files to a lab for printing, How to Print has that covered too. There's interviews with industry professionals and even how to display your images. How to Print has got it all. And when you enroll, you also get lifetime updates, making sure How to Print is the go-to guide for achieving the perfect print. Very, very happy with that. You can probably tell by my beaming smile, but that looks fantastic. I don't know what, but every time I see that and I hear that beaming smile, what was I thinking about? Listen, thank you so much for joining me, everybody. I can see that the chat room's already got busy. people from all over the place, and quite right, like Judy says, this has become quite an international group. We've got people from all over the place. I'm not going to list them all, but I know that Stuart Potgieter is from South Africa. He's dialing in from South Africa, so thank you so much for joining there, Stuart. Listen, we're in for a treat tonight. This is one that I said during the countdown that I'm going to learn equally as much as you tonight, because although I've met Chris once before, we had a very, very brief chat, and you'll get to hear why that was. I don't really know the full story, but what I do know, the small amount I do know, is it's powerful. It's really, really powerful stuff, and if anything, it tells you the power of photography. So looking forward to sharing that with you, and I'll bring Chris in a short while. Before we do, though, just a little bit of admin. Let me take you through just a few things that I want to mention. The first one, because obviously as each week goes by now, it's getting closer and closer to the Photoshop Virtual Summit 6, which I'm really looking forward to. Good to know that the folks out in Florida, Dave Cross and whatever, came through the hurricanes and whatever, nice and safe. So that's all good to know, and he's out over in the Adobe Max at the moment. But the link you can use for getting a free pass to all 40 classes over the 5 days is that one just there. So if you go to that link there, it'll take you to where you can get information about the free pass, which you might as well get, even if you can, you don't think about to see everything, or you might not even see any of it. There's the chance that you might in that week. And if you've got the pass, you can use it. If you've got it and use it, great. If you haven't got it, then you're going to miss out. There's also details about the VIP pass as well. So if you want to know more about what the VIP pass is, there's an earlier live that I did with Dave Cross a couple of weeks back now where he explains more about it. So that's one thing to let you know. The other thing was, how to print. Obviously, I played that little promo video just as we started there. All I wanted to mention about the how to print course is that I had a meeting with the publishers that I have, Rocky Nook, based in South Africa. Where are they? I'm just trying to think where they are. San Francisco, that's where they're based. They are taking on, looks like they could be taking on how to print as a book. So when I did publish that I was kind of thinking about doing that, I mentioned it in the Facebook group, I'd like to do a book from this. Looks like it's going to happen, so I'll keep you posted about that. Another thing. I was asked a couple of months back now, I was on a podcast with a great guy called Matt Jacobs. It's called The Mood Podcast. And I was interviewed, we chatted for about an hour and a half. And I got to say, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Matt was asking me all kinds of questions, things that I hadn't asked before. And a lot of it was quite controversial. So I'm going to recommend that you watch it. I'll put the link to that in the description part of this video. It'll also be in the blog post. But check out this short reel now. It's only 30 seconds long or so-ish. But his editing for this podcast is absolutely fantastic. This is the promo that he put out to say that the episode was now live. I just love this. If there's one thing you can guarantee in life, it's change. If you do something for the right reasons, good things will happen.
How do you balance the monetization of your education and the free side?
I've made some good money on YouTube, I really have, and it's nice to have that residual income there. But you can't rely on it. I certainly never would want to put all my eggs into one basket when somebody else owns that basket. When I do create content, and it is a tutorial, I've lost count the amount of times people have said, I've brought that because you share so much.
Give us 2 or 3 tips on kind of YouTube growth.
Don't stick to the same day every week.
Do you spend a lot of your time in the online world?
I have fallen into that feeling sometimes of, oh God, I need to post something. Even when there's nothing to post, just enjoy the silence. And this will be a controversial comment. I know it will be. Oh. Such a good episode, even though I'm in it. I know it feels weird saying that, but the way he's edited it and everything, I think, hey, I quite enjoyed listening to myself for a change. Right, anyway, enough of all the admin and all that kind of stuff. We need to get Chris in so we can start going through some of his background, and you're going to be blown over by what this guy's done in a very, very short space of time. But before we do, let me do the ritual when I play the slideshow, the promo that I've put together for him. Chris sent over a whole load of different images. Now, the images I'm going to show you here, majority of them are portraits in a very similar style. And these are portraits from one of Chris's projects. And the project is about homelessness. And it's called Breaking the Stereotype. So, and also this slideshow, I was telling Chris earlier on, is the first time I've ever done a promo slideshow where the music is actually somebody singing. Normally it's got kind of classical music where you get all those different tempos and pitches change to the beat and so on and so forth. This is the first one where I just very quickly found some music which just seemed to fit in. So look at the pictures, look at the words, and then we'll bring Chris in to explain a lot more of this stuff.
I don't feel the way I should when I look at me. I don't recognize that girl, and it's hard to breathe with all this weight on my lungs, and I can't see how I can do this on my own. Tell me, how can I make it when I always fake it? Oh, how can I save me when I feel like breaking? Oh, how can I make it? My mind's always changing, those blood stains are fading, but I am still breaking apart. No, I can't change. I can't change the way I hope that someday I won't feel this anymore. 'Cause it's hard to say, but every day I wake, I wish that I won't wait. 'Cause the day always takes more than it gives. Tell me, how can I make it when I always fake it? Oh, how can I save me when I feel like breaking? Oh, how can I make it? My mind's always changing, those blood stains are fading, but I am still breaking apart. I don't feel the way I should when I look at me. I don't recognize that girl.
Whoa, powerful stuff, isn't it? And quite rightly, like Judy says here, Judy's put that, wow, he captures the eyes of these folks. They say so much, and they do, don't they? They really do, no matter what the expression on that person's face. I find that immediately you're drawn to the eyes, and it's those that there's that connection. And that's one of the biggest things I ever talk about is portrait photography. The difference between taking a photo and a portrait is that connection, and Chris completely nails it. So let's bring him in. Let's just unmute him, make sure I get that correct. Here we go. Here he is. So Chris, thank you so much for joining me, mate.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm very good, and I'm glad to see you got the note about the matching hoodie as well. That's good to see.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Bit of uniformity going on here. Setting the standard, which is kind of cool. But listen, thank you so much for joining me. We've chatted very briefly earlier on today, and I can tell that, this year in particular, it sounds like it's been very, very busy. So for you to spare this time for us for this, I really do appreciate it. So I'm looking forward to hearing more than I didn't get to ask you the first time we met.
That was a while ago now, yes. So
yeah, so remind me, when was it again?
October a couple of years ago. It was back at Photo Hubs for the Guild. You were doing a workshop on headshots, I think it was. Yeah. And I think you just released the 3945 project as well.
All right,
or that.
okay.
Yeah, you were certainly talking about that as well. I think you were talking about how you'd edit it and things like that. Because
Yes, yeah. Cool. It's scary how quick time goes by, mate. But yeah, but no. Listen, obviously we have not really conversed much since then. But I'm aware of you. You're probably, I know we're friends on Facebook and all that kind of stuff. But I just had to reach out to you because I remember your story being incredibly powerful. So let's kick off before we dive into the kind of stuff that you're doing. Let's just kind of like I do with everybody every week, just to get us kind of relaxing into the kind of rhythm here. Give us a potted history, if it's possible, about what's got you to where you are now as Christopher the photographer. How did that all come about?
in a word, well, a couple of words, I was homeless. Um, spent just over 2 years living on the streets around High Wycombe, and during the time there, I actually got invited to take part in a photography workshop, and as a result of that work, it was actually the original set of images for breaking the stereotype. It was a smaller collection of images there of volunteers for the charity that's doing it, staff from the charity, and also some of the other homeless people there. And that got picked up by the local council, put on display in the museum and the library. And then there was a day when I got taken out for a coffee. That's all I was told. I was just being taken out for coffee. We went to John Lewis in High Wycombe, and imagine a homeless guy walking through the homeware section. I was getting some really funny looks. We went upstairs to where the cafe bit is, the restaurant bit is, and turned the corner, and there's loads of people gathered around. And then I realised that on the wall was my work. People were gathered to actually see my work. And they'd printed them off big. They were larger than life size prints on the wall, took up the whole wall. And it was then explained to people the fact that I was there because I was the one that took the photographs. And seeing people's expressions change, I just thought then I could do something with this. I would really like to do something with this. That then gave me the kick that I needed, because being on the streets, you kind of like lose, certainly for that length of time, you lose hope. And it probably took me about another 6 months, and then I got into a bit of a rehab place where I stayed for 18 months. And then I finally got somewhere to live, and came out and got somewhere to live after the 18 months, and came back to High Wycombe. And the day afterwards, I went to the church, the church that was supporting me at the time, and one of the people there remembered the project and how it inspired me to actually want to do something and to get off the streets, and inspired me with photography. He gave me a camera he didn't need anymore, and I made the decision there and then that I would do it. I'd always had this thing. This had always been in the back of my mind. I wanted to do something with photography, and I thought I'll give it a go. And I'm still going. So it was a case of I didn't know what I was doing. I'd just been given this camera. I think it was like a 650D, Canon 650D, and didn't know what I was doing. It was a digital camera. I didn't even have a computer, so I was using friends' computers. I was using the library to actually get these photos off the camera. But that's how I started my photography, and I went through doing all sorts of different things. I started out working with it was when microstock was still a thing that you could do and actually earn good money from. So I started out doing that, and that's a real steep learning curve because their quality that they need, you have to get past their quality control. So the actual getting the actual quality side of it, not some of the technical bits there. So then I tried.
I'll tell you what, Chris. Let's just pause just there for a second, because in a very short space of time, you've revealed a lot, and I can tell that people watching this are going to be feeling the same as me, because that chat room, which was moving, has now stopped. And it just tells me that people are just listening and taking all this in. So let me just rewind back to the the beginning then. So, and if you're okay to talk about this, if you're not, you just give me the nod. But you said initially that you were homeless. You were living on the streets.
Yeah.
How are you able to tell us how that came about? Because one thing I'm aware of is this can happen to absolutely anybody. Doesn't matter what, your background, what job you've got, anything. Circumstances can change, and this can happen to anybody. So how did you end up in that position?
So before became homeless, I was married. I was had a good IT job and things like that. And this is, again, partly of what breaking the stereotype is. The stereotype of a homeless person is that a lot of people think they come into homelessness because of addictions, crime, and things like that. But the three main areas to become homeless are job loss, health, or relationship breakdown. I decided to be a little bit greedy and go for the perfect storm of all three. I got admitted to hospital with a autoimmune condition, and when I got admitted, they gave me between 3 and 6 days. Ended up staying in hospital for 12 weeks before I came out. And during that time while I was in there, I ended up getting divorced, and the company that I was working with actually went into administration.
God, dear me. God.
So,
I mean, just one of those things is enough to deal with, isn't it? Just one of those, but you get all three thrown at you. Right. Okay. So, blimey. So then that happens to you. You're now living on the streets, and remind me where you were. Did you say High Wycombe, St Albans?
Yeah, High Wycombe. Yeah, I was actually coming out because I didn't want to be in the town centre and things like that. So I actually stayed around the villages outside. It was like areas that I knew, so I just went out to the villages. And as far as luxury homeless accommodation can go, I found there was a marina that I knew, and I knew the door codes for the toilets, so I was sleeping in their toilets, which, say, as far as homeless accommodation, underfloor heating in the winter was absolutely brilliant, but not ideal.
I can't imagine it. Really can't imagine it, because obviously, it's not just, it's not just during the summer. This is year round, and
during the winter you had the night shelters and things like that, which is where I actually started in the night shelters, which is like there was a series of 7 churches, and each night you turn up at a different church and just sleep on the floor in the church. They put down inflatable mattresses and you sleep on the floor in the church. But it was hard. It was like, but it's also part of the reason why people get institutionalized into homelessness as well when they've been there a while. You get to know the routine about, like, on Monday you go to this place to get food, on Tuesday you go somewhere else and you might get food and some, a shower or something. On another day you turn up, you get food, and there might be like clothes going on, and you can go and get clothes. But you learn the actual circuit of where you need to be each day, and it just becomes a routine.
God dear me.
But it's
you said you did that for 2 years, Chris, is that right?
Yeah. But it opens your eyes up as to what is actually important, what's not important.
Okay, so I'll throw it back at you then. You say it opens your eyes to it. What did it make you realise what was important and what's not important?
People, and just the way you see the world is different. You spend a lot of time observing people. You hear that a lot in street photography. It's like watching people first of all, before you even think about taking a photo. So it's that bit of watching people, and you do a lot of that, and number of story, and you're talking to people as well. So the number of stories I came across, and you realise, even within homelessness, it's not just homelessness. There's so much more to it. There's all the different reasons as to why people are on the streets, why people are in situations, and it's not just the people on the streets either. It's the people in temporary accommodation, hostels, hotels, that although they've got a roof over their head, they don't know whether they're going to be there for the next night or next week or next year. They can't start building a life up again. And you hear the stories about how they got there, and you also hear the positive side of what they would like to do when their life changes again. And it's quite sad, really, because certainly when I went back, just jumping forward a bit now, to Breaking the Stereotype, because Breaking the Stereotype was done as a 10-year anniversary of that first exhibition. I decided that I wanted to do something to mark that. And I went back to the homeless charity that was supporting me and said, I would like to come back and redo that project. And they said yes to it. And then I asked John Lewis, and they said yes, definitely. They would back it. So we literally all went back to them, back to the organisation, and we redid it all over the space of weeks. So all of those portraits, they are caught outside of the office. And they are street portraits. There's no control on lighting, anything like that. With each person, I've probably had maximum of 5 minutes to get the photo. But that's also to explain the photo, explain what I'm doing, who I am, why I'm doing it, to get that little level of trust there, first of all, before I ask to take their photo. And that's all within that.
Okay, all right. So we'll talk. I want to talk about your process, because obviously before we went live, me and you were just chatting. I said there's just this thing I got from the portraits, and surely, obviously, Judy noticed that straight away as she's watching. But let's just backtrack a little bit. So obviously, you're in that unfortunate position where you are living on the streets for 2 years, but during that period, the photography comes along. Now, remind me again, because as you kept talking at the start there. One thing that made me go, oh my God, was replaced by another thing that made me think, oh, flipping it. So I'm kind of like just trying to get back to where we were. So the photography initially, you went out and took some photographs. How did that come about? Did somebody give you a camera when you were on the streets, did you say?
It was a photographer that came in to work with the charity, and he ran like a 2-week photography project.
Right.
Workshop, and I was asked if I wanted to take part in it, and I was kind of like sold on the fact that it was indoors, they had coffee and they had biscuits, so I said yes to it. And so he set up a little background and said, look, if you want to just think of something to take photographs of, and I just looked around and thought, well, I've got the people here, and I seem to remember I'd either seen it somewhere or it was in a magazine, a set of black and white portraits all together. And I thought, that's an idea. I've got people here all there for the same reason. So I'll get them to sit in front of the camera and take their photo and then put them together.
So is this the first, you say you were given, like, there was a 2-week thing then, you say? You were shown how to use the camera and stuff like that, shown how to use lighting. And then it's a case of, right, you can loan this camera when you come in, is that right? And you can take these pictures. So is that how it went?
Yes, it was like half a day. It was literally done, if you put it all together, in the space of a day. He literally came in for like a couple of afternoons, I think it was. So, and that's all the time you had. And so you literally use whatever resource you've got there to put these bits together.
And then after you've done that, then you've come in, you've taken these pictures. What did you do with them then initially? Because obviously, as I understand from what you're saying, once you've done this, you're in this environment where it's indoors, you're getting coffee and you're getting biscuits. You've then got to go back out and face the world again, living on the street. So what did you do once you'd taken these pictures, what was the process then?
I just explained to the photographer how I wanted them doing. So he did all the editing, everything else. He did the editing, and somehow the printing got organised. But I just literally just took the photos, looked on the computer, and said, like, here's what I want. I want them in black and white. And so he did all that. I was just literally just pointing the camera and taking the pictures.
And so how was it left then? Once you'd finished this afternoon, you say, if you put all the time together, it's like half a day or whatever, you'd done them. You then go off and carry on, you know, dealing with your life as you were, making the very best of a bad situation. What were you then? Were you then told, oh, this is going to happen to them, you'll see them then? Or because obviously this John Lewis thing, was that a complete surprise? Have you been taken in there for that?
That was a surprise. Because it was involved with I was using the organisation charity more or less every day. I was in their offices for some reason or another. So they kept on giving me updates about what was happening, and they said that mine had been picked up and it was going to go on display. They told me about the museum and they told me about the library, but they hadn't told me about John Lewis. That was a complete surprise.
Right.
So
wow. So take me through that then. So they pick you up, whatever, they meet you, they take you to John Lewis for what you think is going for a coffee.
Yeah, because I had some people that were kind of like supporting me, so it was quite common for them to actually either, because of where I was, they'd pick me up and take me for a coffee somewhere just to like sit down and have a chat. So that wasn't unheard of. That's happened. So, and I think we had actually used John Lewis before, but obviously they'd picked it up and said, right, we're going to take you there. So I just thought coffee, and perhaps a free lunch.
Yeah. And you said that as you went in, people were like looking at you and as if to say, "What are you doing here?" Maybe.
Yeah.
Was that a common feeling that you had when you were around other places?
People looking at you, yeah. I was a bit of I should have sent you over the original photograph of me back in 2013. The full-on beard and my long hair, scruffy. So it was pretty obvious that I was the homeless person when I look back at it. Right. But you would get the reactions of people would either look at you, I want to say pity or something like that. Some would just like give you that, like, just do something, get off the streets, whatever. It sounds easy to do. Other people would literally walk across the road to avoid you, or not even look at you, won't acknowledge you, things like that. So that bit of it was hard. There were some really good times, if you can call them that, where you see those moments of kindness from people. Yeah. There's a time when I was actually, just for something to do, because I used to paint years ago. So I'd actually saved up and bought myself a little set of canvas boards, like postcard size canvas boards, and a cheap set of paints, and I'd just go off and paint. And I remember being sat on this like picnic table thing and just painting. And this mother came along with her daughter, and they sat on the next table. And the daughter seemed really interested in what I was doing, and she actually ended up coming over and sitting with me. And the mother actually allowed her to do that. So I ended up just like sharing a canvas board with her and sharing the paints. We sat there and painted together for a couple of hours, which was like a really special moment to actually be trusted like that in that way. And it just something different to be able to do that. So that was a really special time of and it's just that bit of just being accepted a little bit more.
Absolutely,
the bit they got you. And
but then you go into John Lewis, and these people are thinking, "What are you doing here?" And all of a sudden, you see these huge portrait prints. I mean, that must have been an amazing feeling. First of all, complete shock. First of all, expecting it. But then for them as well, when they're told that you did them.
Yeah. It was like it was just it was that bit of. That was the inspiration for what I do now. I've always had it in the back of my head of I want to do something with photography. And when I started out,
always even before
no,
you were into the situation.
No, from that moment, it was like when I say I always wanted to do something with it. When I started out as a photographer, obviously I did I did like family photography. I actually even once tried newborns and decided that was not for me. And that I did some product stuff. I tried all the different bits and pieces, like the landscapes and nature, and trying to find out where you fit in and what you do.
Yeah.
End up settling on like portraits and weddings, and that became a bit of a speciality of what I do. But I always had it in the back of my head, because of how I started. Not everybody gets the opportunity to start in such a high impact way. Because you hear the stories of, oh yeah, I've got into photography because my dad was a photographer or something like that. My dad used to have this camera and things like that. For me to be able to say that I got into photography because my work was on exhibition is a kind of bit of a backwards way of doing it.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds great already, doesn't it? When you say I got into photography because my work was on an exhibition. But whoa, hold on a second. What were you also doing, leading up to that, and your situation at the time? That whole thing together is like mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. It really, really is. I want to... Obviously, a lot's happened since then, which is just incredible, the amount of stuff that's happened, all positive. And we'll talk about that in a moment, with all the projects that have been going on and all the other exhibitions, of which there are many now, which is wonderful. But one thing that makes me think about when I hear your story there is, I remember going back a while now, going on some photo walks. And I'm not a street photographer. That's just not my thing. I've never liked to be photographing people who weren't, arranged and willing to be and organised to be in front of my camera. I'm not somebody who just kind of like pounces. As some people seem to be really comfortable with it. I'm not. But I remember this one particular time going out on this organised photo walk, and it was around Windsor and over the bridge into Eton and places like that. And I remember on that bridge, that particular bridge that goes over that part of the Thames, there was a homeless guy. There was a guy there who was just minding his own business, sat down, just, not wanting to kind of have any kind of fuss. But there just seemed to be this fascination with people. Oh, fascination is the wrong word. People who are in this group looking for like the great photo, they just swarmed over to him. And it just looked and felt awful. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And yes, they were giving him some money, but it just seemed so, to me, I had to walk away because it just seemed so demeaning. Do you know what I mean? It was like he was a thing as opposed to a person.
That, oddly enough, I did a talk at the Guild, and one of the things came up, and I was probably a little bit harsh, and I asked the organizer afterwards, was I okay in saying that? And his response was, it's something that needed to be said. In the fact that as photographers, we tend to go for the photographs that get the likes, get the hard hitting, get that, and the picture of a stereotypical homeless person is one that's got the impact there. It's got the emotion and everything else that would, if the photograph's taken correctly, will get the likes, or it'll get the sympathy vote or something. But the bit that I hold an issue with is, if you're taking a photograph of a homeless person on the street, it's the same as somebody walking into your house and taking a photograph of you.
Yeah.
You're walking into their front room to take that photograph. So you have that bit there. So we need to be asking permission for this sort of thing. The other aspect of it is, if we're doing documentary photography, or which street photography, documentary photography, part of our responsibility is to show a true story. It's to tell the truth in that image. From a homelessness point of view, if we're just showing pictures of the homeless people sleeping rough or being rough on the street, being rough on the streets, wrong way of putting it, but sleeping rough on the street, living on the streets, we're not giving a true picture. Which comes into what my project, Breaking the Stereotype, is about the fact of our stereotype of a homeless person is built up of that person on the streets,
Yeah.
which is roughly 1% of the homeless population in the UK. There's about 309,000, I think, the last figures of homeless people recorded in the UK. Between 3,000 and 4,000 sleep rough on any given night. It's
Really?
1%.
Wow. Yeah. So so basically what you're saying is that picture there that they're taking, that small is basically capturing a small percentage of what is a much bigger picture. You're just seeing a small part of it. Yeah. So what would you, as somebody who has, well, complete and utter first-hand experience of that life, and obviously I don't know, have you, when you were in that position, did you ever find yourself with somebody wanting to take a picture? Did that ever
I came
happen?
away from the high street.
Right. So
I purposely came away from the high street.
So what would you? There's probably a very simple answer to this, and I think I know it now, thinking about what you've just said. But if somebody is out in the street doing their street photography, or they're in a group of people taking pictures, looking for just whatever, and they do see somebody who's in that unfortunate position, and we are in their home, literally, as we're walking past, what would you like to see those people do or not do?
Is this from a photography point of view, or
just if you put in your just what with the work that you do? What's the etiquette that you would like to see people do, or what would you rather people? What would you rather people do when they see somebody like that and they're thinking to take a picture?
I think there's two aspects to this. There's two answers to this. One is, as a person, all they probably want is somebody to talk to, somebody to take a bit of time and actually notice them. You will get some that will get grumpy, get a bit aggressive about it, but a lot of them just want to be noticed, just a bit of interaction during the day. And that's probably all they need. Offer them a coffee, offer them a sandwich, but to be fair, a lot of time they get so many sandwiches and so many coffees because people don't know what to do, but they might just want a little bit of time. That's all. From a photography point of view, this is probably a bit of a. I think you've done something on this before. I'm pretty sure it was you. Is if you're doing something like that, it's why are you doing it? What are you doing it for? Are you doing it for a reason that's going to benefit the person you're taking the photograph of? Are you doing it for the right reason? Or are you doing it because you think it's something that's going to do something for you? Are you going for the likes, or are you going for the benefit of that other person? And I think that's the question we're asking ourselves.
I think, you're dead right. And I think from what you're just saying there, I'm thinking about when would I have maybe done something like that or said something like that. I don't know if you ever heard that story that I may have relayed that when we saw each other at the Guild about somebody who in the States was going to start doing that. And I think, regular viewers to this will maybe have heard this, but when somebody in the States was going to do a similar project to what I did with veterans, and I was always saying, when you're photographing a veteran, someone who's elderly in their home, you're doing it, it's got to be for the right reasons and for them, and don't treat them like idiots. Do you know what I mean? And I remember this one, the long story short is that this person, whenever they shared a picture of a veteran that they'd photographed in the States, when they would share it on social media, if you were lucky, you saw their name of the person that has been photographed. The rest of it was just line upon line upon line of hashtags of photographer, Canon, hire me, all these kind of things. And you could just see straight away that it was done purely with the intention of, this will be good for me. Yeah. And I'm not kind of saying, oh, how saintly am I? But when I was doing that project, it was more, I went into it genuinely, and those who know me really well will vouch for this. I genuinely went into this because I just wanted to give something to those veterans. Yeah. And it just happened. And like I said in that little promo thing there for that Mood podcast, if you do something for the right reasons, good things will happen. Yeah. But you don't go into it with the intention of thinking I could get something from this.
Yeah, but that again, you're right. It was that project. It was that example you said.
Right. Okay.
But again, like with your 3945 project, because you were going in for it with it for the right reasons, that showed in the results you got.
And that then I'll throw that back to you. Then that's why you're getting the results that you're getting. There's a connection. You can definitely relate to the people.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody better could relate to them. Do you know what I mean? Such as yourself, because you know their needs, wants, feelings, reservations, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, wonderful. All right, listen. Let's now talk on although we are talking on a positive side here, because already we're seeing, you know, somebody's gone from living the way you were having to live to then having this exhibition, which is just incredible, and then things move on, because now when I did think I've got to get Christopher on here, and I put your name, I follow your links, and I'm straight away like, what is this? The Christopher James Hall Foundation. What the hell is all this about? And I'm thinking how things have grown. So I'm just going to share my screen for a second. Let me just go over to here. Let me just share my screen. So this here is your website, right? One of your websites, rather. And it says the Christopher James Hall Foundation. And there's all these different projects in here. There's so much stuff going on here. All these different projects. So Chris, I want to just kind of, first of all, what is this? What is the Christopher James Hall Foundation?
Well, I always wanted to find a way of giving back, using the photography to give back, to get back to where it all started. And so a couple of years ago, or just over a couple of years ago, I decided that I was in a position where I could do that. So I started off working with one charity, which is Emmaus, and then we did the Emmaus journey, where I worked with two of the companions and taught them how to use a camera, got them out taking photographs, and in the end we put a book together for that, which went on exhibition around all their shops and all their different sites and things. And so that was how it started, and then it kind of like springboarded from that first project. And then we tried doing different bits and pieces. We tried doing different workshops and working individually with organisations. But it came back to one thing: the strength that we had was telling stories. It was actually telling the story there. It wasn't running the workshops and working one-to-one with individuals, because we wanted to have a bit more. It was the impact we could tell. If we put all these stories together, it was the impact that came from that. So we kind of like move things around a little bit, and then from what we had then, we set up the foundation. So now
who is this we, Chris? Who is this we?
It's myself and the trustees, because we're a charitable organisation. We're a community interest company at the moment, although we are looking to change over to a charity. So I have trustees and things like that involved with it now. So it's, but now we rather than working with one organisation, what we'll do is we'll say, from the information we're getting through, we can get ideas for what needs to be addressed, what challenges need to be addressed, and what things need awareness raised on. So we'll then get a few organisations and work with all of them to put something together that's a large exhibition, a large project. So we'll have, and for each exhibition, we'll put an exhibition together. We'll put a publication together as well for that. But so rather than working with one charity where we might get 5 stories, so if you look at the Echoes project and the domestic abuse one, actually you're showing the bottle from that now.
All right.
And we were then going working with 7 different organisations and getting stories from those organisations, from the survivors of that, and putting that together, and that then created one exhibition, which is still going out now. It's going to come up. It's got 3 venues it's going to go to in November. And one of them's the Cathedral in St Albans, which is a big venue for us. And we've got quite a few others planned already for next year for that one to go out. And likewise, we've got the Breaking the Stereotype, which was the remake, and that seems to have made a comeback. Because the other bit is that we're now, when we put these bodies of work together, it's not just one exhibition we're putting together. It's then a resource that that if an organisation comes to us and say we want to run an awareness campaign for say domestic abuse, we'll say, here you go, here's the prints, you can put on an exhibition, and we'll send you certain copies of the book and everything else, and you can put that out. And let us know anything else you want from us that will actually help you raise awareness of that. Which is why it's going out to different venues. One of the charities that we worked with, they've arranged for it to be displayed by Stevenage Council, but it's also on this permanent display in all of their offices and all of their sites.
Wow.
So it's that ongoing impact of it. It's not just like one exhibition that's going to be seen once. It's something that's going to keep going and keep going and keep going. Plus, it's a project that won't end. If we've got new stories coming up, we're continuously updating it.
So,
and we do that.
So the work that you do, the reason that this has all been set up, is to basically raise awareness of these situations, and it's not just the homelessness; it's also, like you mentioned there briefly, domestic abuse as well. But you find, as a photographer, that the best way to get this message across is by telling the stories with these images, because they're much more impactful.
Yeah.
Wow. What an incredible use of photography.
Yeah, because I know you showed the images from the domestic abuse one, like the bottle, the chair there, the pot of money. When it goes on display, it's as an A4 print, but it's also got the words on the bottom of it as well from what is behind the image. So
those images there, if I just bring one of them up then, so let's have a see if I can find it. This one here, and there's other ones as well, like these kind of things here. Is that right?
Yeah. So if you go, you can share your screen, can't you?
I can.
So
let me just go to.
If you go projects and then current projects and echoes.
Okay. So current projects, echoes.
Go right down the bottom there. So you will see the images, and it's got the story that went behind it.
Wow.
Okay. So, and some of these are hard hitting, like the one of the bottle that you showed.
Yeah.
It actually reads, "He would make me drink it. Sometimes beer, other times something stronger, depending on his mood. I learned that even if I didn't drink, he still got what he wanted. Sometimes it felt easier to just go along with it and numb myself, to be out of it rather than feel what he was doing."
Oh my God. Wow. So that's powerful. That is seriously powerful, isn't it? You don't need a video, a moving image for that kind of stuff. Just one image and some wording. So what's the goal, Chris? What is the goal? What's the mission?
To help is just to get the message out there, change people, the way people think, to raise awareness. It's like with the breaking the stereotype, being able to, it's that people think about the 1% and making them aware of the other 99% to people. The fact that a homeless person, when I first came across homelessness, it was somebody who actually worked for me at the time. She came into work, she was a member of my staff, and through different bits and pieces, I actually found out that she was homeless. She was living in temporary accommodation, split up with a partner living in temporary accommodation. So it's not the immediate visible. It could be somebody that's actually at work with you. It could be somebody you sat in a coffee shop. When I was actually doing the project, a lady turned up in a suit and everything else to use the services of the charity, and she'd popped in on a lunch break and then gone away back to work. So it's not always obvious to see people who are homeless. And likewise, um, domestic abuse being able to actually have people talk about it and change people's views about it, saying because I always start these sort of things when I'm doing talks about these. I would say, right, what's your view? If you took in what you saw on social media, you took on what you see on TV, the news, newspapers, magazines, and then get an image in your head of what domestic abuse is. And the majority of people, when asked that question, I'll ask them to put their hands up so I can gauge the audience that are there. And the majority of people will say it involves some form of violence, which, yes, some cases do, but it's not the whole picture. And the other bit stereotypic is the fact that it's a man against a woman, and it's not always that way around. Quite often, it's the woman against the man, or like gay on gay, or it's that sort of thing. The bits that you don't see, and it's the psychological, the financial, and bits that we aren't aware of. We don't immediately think about as being domestic abuse. And so, if we can change people's opinions, I can't change. As a person myself, I probably can't change what is happening. But what I can do one step at a time is change. If I can change one person's opinion each time, I'm doing something. And just chipping away and doing that, I'm doing my bit and helping make a difference in this.
The homeless thing, the homeless projects rather, is one thing. Then you've got this domestic abuse thing here, which is obviously, this is something that's kind of hidden behind closed doors that people don't know about generally. Yeah. Because the perpetrators, for want of the better word, can be very crafty and very cunning with how they go about it. But when you're doing this, the exhibition for this particular issue here, who comes along? What kind of people come along? And do you invite specific people as well from certain organisations? And I'm thinking, local councils, local police, maybe like with domestic violence units and things like that. So they can, have their input or maybe even learn more. I don't know. Yeah.
So for the launches, we always try and put something together for it, and people will be invited along to that. And it's quite often the charities, but we work with and other people from councils and things. But I also leave it open for the charities also to invite people along as well. So they might have particular people they know that need to hear these stories. But it's also the general public as well. So the first bit will be the launch bit of it, but then it's open to the general public. If I can get away with it, I tend to have it on for at least 2 weeks to allow people to go in there and see an exhibition. And so it's just changing those views and seeing the feedback that we're getting at the moment on the projects. It really surprised me what the result of what we're doing is. And I was actually shocked when I picked up some. I get the feedback. I leave feedback forms. I get the feedback from people, and I ask 3 main questions: has their awareness changed? Has their view changed? And would they feel more comfortable talking about whatever challenge it is? 97% of people who've seen one of the exhibitions or been involved with the exhibition have said that their awareness of the topic has changed. 81% have changed their views on the topic, and 74% of people have felt more comfortable talking about it. Wow. That is what the impact we're after. Is to get it, A, raise awareness of it, B, get people to actually know more about it and to change their views on it, and C, be able to talk about these situations more so it's not so hidden It's more, and the more people they talk about that, again, is actually raising awareness of it, even without being at the exhibition, and it's making it more open. The more open it becomes, the more difficult, the harder it is to actually hide it.
Yeah. Listen, I think I said to you before we went live, Chris, about halfway through, I'll have a break so we can have a bit of a slurp of a drink. I've just realised I've been so engrossed in this. We're nearly at an hour now. So what we'll do, let's just, there's so much more I'd like to ask you, but I want to bring you back in, because once you've done, let's say 6 months' time when there's more stuff happening and updates on things as well. But let's just have a quick 2-minute break, or play a quick ad. Then we'll come back, and I want to just go through some of the comments or questions that people have posted in there. So yeah, have another slurp, and I'll play this.
I need to get some more water up. So give me 2 minutes.
You go do that. I'll play this ad. All right, mate. We'll catch you in a moment. I'm going to mute you, so don't worry about noise. Oh God, man! Genuinely, I was thinking like we'll pull it halfway through, have a break, but I've just been, and I think. I'm kind of guessing that's how everyone else has been watching this, because the chat there goes through sporadic bits of content being posted, and all of a sudden it's just still for ages. And I just guess that's you folks just watching. Amazing stuff. Right, let's just play a quick ad. We'll then get Chris back in. Just post some of your comments so he can see some of those, and then we'll call it a day. But wow, powerful stuff. Really powerful stuff. Let me just play this, and we're back in a short while. Alrighty. I was watching on the little monitor then. Is he back? Is he back? Right, he's back.
He's back.
He's back. Right, well, tell you what then. I don't know if there's questions, but there's certainly comments. Let me just play me graphic. I've got to play it. I always like pressing that. I don't know why. I like the way it moves. But let me just dive over just to show you some of these here, Chris. And obviously this is ones that I've kind of highlighted as we've gone through this. But genuinely, the chat room there is normally wow like this. I know why people have not been. There's not been loads and loads and loads. It's purely because people like me, that hour has just gone like that. And like wow. But I mean, look examples here. Look, I'll bring these up for you now. Judy, as you know, right at the start, wow, it captures the eyes of these folks. They say so much, and they really do. Michael, amazing use of light, soft and crisp at the same time, marvelous. So you're kind of being, from the moment you're given this, to try out this camera in this little 2-week coursey thing that you did, in the charity and stuff, your learning has just gone like that. It really has. But what I love about your stuff, and genuinely mean this, is that to me, it looks like you focused more on the connection. Don't get me wrong, your lighting is lovely, as Michael mentions, but what I see more in your photography than anything else is a connection. And I think you're in a position where you are getting that connection because of your first-hand experience, the empathy that you can give people, and they'll relate to you more than most, I would suggest, is where that's coming from. Deborah, wonderful photos. Kirsty, my friend Kirsty, wow, I've got chills. It goes on, breathless. So, I mean, this really is a doffing of the cap to you here, Chris, because this is just wonderful stuff. And yeah, like Stuart says there, no words. Honestly, I don't know how he coped. I saw that one come up from Stuart very, very soon on, once you were mentioning, when I say, give us a potted history, I don't think people were expecting that. I mean, you said that bit. A touching story, Hans has put there, and my great friend Nigel Thomas. Nigel's put here, Christopher, and yeah, I echo this. Christopher, you're a very special man. Thank you so much for sharing with us. What you're doing is incredibly powerful. It really, really is. And like Deborah commented here, an incredible story, reminded again about the power of a camera. I love that the fact that this little piece of technology, it isn't just about capturing, you know, odds and sods. It can, and you know, staged photos where, like I've been doing recently, I've been doing this composite. I've got back into my compositing again. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. You're using it in a very, very different way. And I think the way maybe you feel about what you do with the camera, I had a tiny taste of that when I was doing the veterans thing, because to me, it just felt like this complete synergy between what I love and photography and everything all coming together. It just felt like that's the reason why I picked up a camera in the first place. Yeah. And I'm kind of guessing that's what it sounds really cheesy, doesn't it? But it's almost like it was meant to happen. You were meant to be given that camera to play around with and see what you could do with it.
And thanks for the comments about the photos and the portraits and things like that. But it was, if I haven't got the subjects, there's nothing there. It's the people that are in the photographs. It's the stories behind the photographs that create the photos. So it's actually, without them, I wouldn't be doing it. All I can do is actually document what I'm given. And as far as the actual technicalities of a photo, say the comments about the lighting, I actually had between about 3 and 5 minutes with each person. I pretty much didn't have any control about the lighting. It just depended on where we were stood. Because in some cases there was a language barrier. One of the photos, it is quite fortunate that he was there and he had his interpreter with him. So I didn't have much control over the technical aspects of it. But what I've found with my photography is I'm actually kind of taking a step back from the technical sides of things. It's, to me, it is more that connection, emotion behind the photo than the technical, it being technically perfect. If I haven't got the focus right or something like that, as long as the photo's got the emotion, to me, that's more important. Yeah,
absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And I've noticed that my great friend Ian's just dived in. He's got a lot on his plate at the minute, but he's still finding time to jump in. So I really appreciate that, Ian. Ian's put here, you can take pictures and see where there's no connection, but it's evident that there's a real connection in the story. I've only watched a small portion, but we'll catch up. And that's high praise. That's high praise coming from Ian. He sets himself very high standards. He looks for high standards in others. So when you get something like that from Ian, it means a lot, mate. It really does. And Geraldine, it's lovely to see that Geraldine's joined us tonight. Your images really do tell a story, and having the words with the photos is very impactful. I have family and friends that have lived these stories, and also work with people. Wow. Okay. You never know people's circumstances, do you? You never ever know. Everyone's got a story. And Geraldine finishes off here by saying, "I love your passion. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for watching, Geraldine. Really appreciate it." I mean, you said there that, you know, it's not you, what you do, it's the subjects. And the first thing that came into my head was, unfortunately, you do have them. Unfortunately, you've got subjects. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of a project that, and take this in the way that it is intended, but it's a project that I wish we didn't have to have.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's but it's wonderful that you're doing what you're doing, and I think it is one of the most incredible uses of photography. Because now when I look through the Echoes project there, and I look at the wording on those images to my left here, that is, you know, I always think that still photos and music is powerful, but just a silent image on its own with some words underneath it, oh man, equally as powerful. So, Chris, mate, thank you so much. I knew this was going to be powerful, but it's surpassed what I thought. It really has surpassed what I thought. And genuinely, this is the first one where I've got to literally 2 minutes from the hour and realised we didn't have a break. Yeah, that's never happened in 35 episodes, something like that. So thank you for being willing to share your own personal and private story, which you're making very public. I really do appreciate you doing that, and thank you for sharing your images. But where would you say for people to keep up with what you're doing? Obviously, we've got your website details there. That's the projects and stuff.
On the website,
is there anywhere else that you would suggest that people keep an eye on what you're up to?
On the website, sign up for the newsletter. I do try and keep up to date with that and sending it out, and things. There's a few things going on at the moment. I might not be hitting that every 2 weeks at the moment.
I know the feeling, mate. Don't worry.
Yeah. But other than that, we're on Facebook and Instagram. We've just got somebody in doing that, so we're actually trying to get a bit more behind doing that. I'm used to doing it myself, so I've actually had to get somebody else to do that for me. So,
so even as you're saying that, I'm just thinking this is just incredible. Really, we've gone from a guy who was living, in for 2 years living on the streets, homeless, to now the situation where you're telling me we've got somebody in doing this, we've got that, it's like, it's incredible. What a story. What an incredible story. Right. Okay. Chris, again, thank you. I've got to show a couple more comments that have just come in here from Judy, our great friend Judy. By the way, did not expect to be crying during this webcast. Thank you, Glenn and Chris. And I know exactly where you're coming from, Judy. And Kirsty's put, this was an emotional roller coaster, but thank you, Chris, for sharing. Absolutely. Chris, you're a star. You really, really are. Thank you so much for this. I'll let you know. I'll send you a link when I've got the recording up on YouTube tomorrow. All the comments will remain there because I won't bother editing it. There'll also be a follow-up blog post as well with anything, with other stuff in it. And I'm going to put your slideshow will be a standalone video as well on YouTube. Brilliant. So it's always good to have a look. I like doing that. But they're getting really good views as well. People seem to like watching slideshows of people's pictures, which is nice.
Ooh.
So
I'll try that.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right. Okay. I shall see you in the virtual green room in a minute. So don't disappear. You'll see me closing it down. You'll see this thing running across the screen. Just stick with me. I'll be back with you very, very soon. But again, thank you from me, and thank you clearly from everybody in the chat room, mate.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Oh, mate. It's been quite a week this week. It really, really has. And that's topped it. That's just, I didn't know if I was going to be able to deal with that, but that's just wonderful. What an amazing guy. What a fantastic use of photography. It's mind-blowing, isn't it? All right, let's wrap this up. So a couple of things then, admin side of things, just to remind you, these will all be in the description and the blog post, obviously. But the Photoshop Virtual Summit 6, I am genuinely looking forward to this because I've done that kind of going back to doing the compositing. There's lots of other things now that I'm going to be able to show because I've kind of, using the new technology and combining new technology with old technology in Photoshop to show that some of the old stuff is still relevant and blah, 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 blah. So I'm looking forward to my 2 classes on that. But looking at the list of stuff, there's a ton of new stuff going to be shown because obviously we've got Adobe Max running at the moment, with all the new stuff being made public. So here's the link. That'll get you details of where you can get your free pass and also details of the VIP pass, which is something to consider because you can get that for reduced price before the function ends, which is the 11th to the 15th of November. The other thing to mention about again was, the Mood podcast. I'll put the link into the description of the blog post, but just look it up. It is, if you put this into your blog search engine, The Mood Podcast, you'll find it there. Great guy, Matt Jacobs. What a fantastic guy to chat to. Really, really good at interviewing. Loved his questions he was asking me, and some were a little bit, whoa, never been asked them before. And I will be back next week. Same time, same place. But this time it's going to be with my guest, Dave Wall. And this is going to be quite a ride. This is definitely going to be quite a ride. What a character, but what a great guy, great photographer. Gets so many of his images put onto book covers all around the world. Thousands and thousands of book covers, takes some amazing stuff. He's also pretty damn good at Photoshop. So I'm looking forward to chatting to Dave next week. But that's it. Thank you for sticking with me. It has been quite a ride, just as Deborah's just put here. That was a heavy episode, but thank you. It was. And do you know what? I think we need that sometimes, just to remind us that, You know, photography is great fun, isn't it? We love it. You know, that feeling of being creative. But my God, can there be a really, really powerful side to it as well? You can really put that bit of electronics to some really good use that can benefit many other people. So yeah, incredible stuff. Good to see people like Chris out there using photography for that reason. Thank you so much for joining me. I shall see you again, same time, same place, Sunday, 7 p.m. for Dave Wall. Have a great week. Look after yourselves. Keep well. I'll see you then.